YouTube, what's going on? Today I bring you my first official 2021 NFL mock draft with trades. So let's hop straight in. Being that this is a trade mock draft, the first pick is not going to be traded. However, Trevor Lawrence is still easily the pick to Jacksonville. It shouldn't be a surprise. Anyone saying otherwise is just, they're sorry, you're wrong. It's Trevor Lawrence is the pick, and that's not changing. So then at number 2, we have our first trade of the draft, ladies and gentlemen. So the Jets trade with the Houston Texans. One thing I want to make clear is that I'm gonna be giving a bunch of first and second rounders over here. That's because obviously we're doing a 2021 draft, and it's just mostly to get the trade through. But the Jets are going to be giving this year's both of their firsts and their second, okay, plus a third rounder, but plus a third rounder. This is the real trade. We're gonna throw in 2 firsts though, just to make the trade go through, in exchange for the Texans' 67th pick and Deshawn Watson. So Deshawn Watson comes over to the Jets. That's where he said he would prefer to go the most over the Dolphins. And just being that the Jets have the draft capital and all that, I think they trade it to the Texans, and they get a fantastic franchise quarterback in Deshaun Watson. But since the Texans trade away Deshaun Watson, they now have to go with a quarterback in Zach Wilson. So I think this is a fantastic move by the Texans because you gain a bunch of draft capital, you get rid of the guy that's not happy where he is right now, and you get your next franchise guy. I think Zach Wilson is easily the second best quarterback in this class. The dude has a ton of upside, just a fantastic arm, great accuracy, makes plays on his feet. I mean, he reminds me a bit of Deshaun Watson. Hard to say he'll be the same or as good, but he definitely can be. Then with the Dolphins at the 3rd pick, and we have another trade here. The Dolphins are going to be trading back with the Carolina Panthers, who are getting a little nervous at this point because they would love to land a great quarterback here. And being that the top 2 guys are already off the board, they're getting a little nervous. The Dolphins, it'd probably be better for them to trade back anyways. So the actual trade is the Dolphins are going to give their 3rd pick, and in return, they're going to get the Panthers 1st and 3rd, and a 3rd from next year. So that's the actual trade, but again, we're going to throw in a 1st and a 2nd to make it go through, and that's accepted. So now that the Panthers have moved up, the pick here is going to be pretty obvious. I mean, and there are receivers and a great tackle on the board, but they moved up here for Justin Fields, who they're hoping can be their next franchise quarterback. The dude has issues he has to work out, but if he can work them out, he'll be a fantastic quarterback in the NFL, and I think he fits nicely with the Panthers, so I think it's a good move here and a good pick. Then the Falcons, and the Falcons are going to stay put where they are. Now they can very well take Trey Lance here. The top 4 quarterbacks could go in the top 4. It's pretty crazy, but they're not, because instead they're going to go with a fantastic linebacker here in Micah Parsons. The dude is so athletically freaky. He's just all over the place. He's big and physical, makes plays everywhere, has this heart to the game. He's a fantastic linebacker. Pairing him up with Dion back there, and Micah can also play safety as well. He's a very good, fantastic, versatile player for that defense. Then the Bengals at number 5. The Bengals are also going to be staying put and going to be taking a fantastic tackle in Penei Sewell. I think some of the people that have Rashawn Slater going over him is ridiculous, especially to the Falcons or the Bengals. If you watch my channel, you know how I feel about Rashawn Slater. He has good parts to him, yes, but I think he's very, very overhyped. Didn't even really play this year because of COVID. And, again, I think he's so overhyped, and I don't think he's going to ultimately work out in the NFL. In Penei Sewell, people are starting to say he's overhyped, and, I mean, I don't know if you can overhype a guy like this. I mean, all the hype is real. This dude is just so insane, and everything that you see from him, his physicality, the way he plays, his motor, just everything. easily the best offensive lineman in this class, and that's why he goes to the Bengals. Then the Eagles at number 6, and the Eagles are another team that, maybe takes Trey Lance, but very unlikely. They can take one of these corners right here in Patrick Surtain or Caleb Farley. JOK would be fantastic on their team, but I don't know if he necessarily goes as high as 6, but he definitely could. But the pick is going to be one of these 3 receivers, and Jamar Chase is easily the best receiver in this class. There was a while where I had Waddle and Smith over Chase, but just looking back on it, yeah, he didn't play this year, but last year, that dude was probably the best receiver in the country that year. Not just as a junior. I think he was a junior. Not even just as a junior. He was just all around the best receiver easily. So I think he's the best receiver here, and the Eagles get their true number 1 guy that they don't really have. So then the Lions at 7, and the Lions are also going to be staying put and going to take one of these wide receivers. Now, it's between Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith, obviously. I gave Devontae Smith to them last time. If you look at both these guys' skill sets, they're both pretty speedy, Jalen Waddle being faster, though. Jalen Waddle definitely has better hands and definitely comes off as more as the number 1 threat, whereas Devontae Smith is the guy that's going to make plays for you. I think he fits better as a solid number 2 receiver, a slot monster, but Jalen Waddle is also great in the slot. But because they have Kenny Golladay, and at worst they're going to franchise tag him, I think the better fit to the Lions is Devontae Smith. Again, he's just that dude that's just really scary and stuff. And they can take Trey Lance for sure as well, especially since Matthew Stafford is not going to be there next year. They're going to be parting ways in a trade. But I just think Devontae Smith is too good of a player to pass up, and he's just too freaky. Pairing him with Golladay would be fantastic. I just think it's the better pick here. Then the Dolphins at number 8. And they've traded back, obviously, and they still land a fantastic wide receiver in Jalen Waddle. You pair him back up with Tagovailoa. But, Waddle, although he's the 3rd best receiver in this class to me, is still a fantastic receiver. Normally, he's a guy that goes number 1. Super, super fast. Even when he was hurt in the championship, he was still running faster than most of the guys out there. Again, great hands. Brings that true number 1 threat presence that I don't think the Dolphins have either, and I think it's a good pick. Then the Broncos at number 9, and the Broncos here are another team that could go with Trey Lance, even though it seems like they're kind of wanting to stick with Drew Lock for right now. There are 2 fantastic corners on the board, a great edge player here in Kwity Paye, and a fantastic linebacker. But the pick is going to be one of these corners, and for a while I went with Farley at number 9 to the Broncos because I thought he had more of an upside and was the best corner in the class. And while I still do believe that, the Broncos need a guy that's NFL ready and is going to make an impact immediately. And if you want that, you're going to want to go with Patrick Surtain, who in some people's minds is the best corner in this class. I think that's Farley, but Farley didn't play all year, of course, because of COVID. So that's kind of hard to judge as well. But I think I like the fit of Surtain more than Farley in Fangio's defense. Surtain is definitely more NFL ready. I think he only allowed I think it was a 20% completion rate. So he basically allows every 1 in 5 catches thrown his way. So, he's a fantastic corner, NFL ready, and he's the best guy at this spot for Denver. So then the Cowboys at number 10. Now the Cowboys, I think if they're going to go anywhere here, it has to be Caleb Farley. But there's a lot of talk that Jerry Jones is really in love with J.C. Horn. And I think it's a little too high for J.C. Horn. And there is still a quarterback on the board that the 49ers would definitely take if he's going to fall to them, which he definitely would at this point if the Cowboys take Caleb Farley, because I don't believe the Giants would take Trey Lance. So what's a team that needs a quarterback and is getting kind of nervous because they don't want the 49ers to take him? Well, I think a team that it works out and that would like to trade up here is, let me find the Cowboys really quick, is the Patriots. So the proposed trade is that Cowboys give them their 10th and the Patriots will give them their 15th, a 4th rounder this year, and then a 3rd rounder next year. We'll go with that, and then of course the So this is the actual trade right here. And then this is just to make it go through. So, anyways, the Patriots trade up here to land Trey Lance, right? The Patriots are another team that really, they need a quarterback right now. And I've been very vocal about the fact that I am not a fan of Trey Lance whatsoever. I think he has a ton of core mechanical issues that's just not going to let him work in the NFL. I think he's going to be a bust. But if he goes to the Patriots, I don't think he will be a bust. In fact, I think if he goes to the Patriots, he has a chance to be the best quarterback from this class. Because if anyone can fix those mechanical issues for Trey Lance, it's Bill Belichick. If anyone can, it's Belichick. So I think it's a great fit here. They don't give up a ton to be able to move up here and land their franchise guy. I think it's a good fit here and a good pick. So then the Giants at 11. No trade here. This is still a pretty simple pick for me. Just being that the top 3 receivers are off the board, I'm definitely going with Kyle Pitts here. Yeah, I know that you guys would like an edge player. There's still a fantastic corner on the board, a linebacker. But you guys need receiving threats so badly. Darius Slayton is good, and then you have no one else really. Because, I mean, Golden Tate is meh. But, you know, you just got to get some receiving threats for Daniel Jones. And Kyle Pitts is just such a fantastic fit. Giants fans, listen to me. I don't want some Giants fan in the comments like, well, we have Evan Ingram. Why do we need a tight end? He is not just a tight end. He catches as well as Odell. He's as physical as Kenny Golladay and blocks as well as Gronkowski. This dude is the all-around package, and he's a fantastic player to add to your team. Then the 49ers here at 12. They would have loved Trey Lance to fall to them, obviously, but he didn't. And I think the pick here pretty easily is going to be Caleb Farley. Some might argue he's the best corner in the class, and I would. Again, I only took Surtain over him because the Broncos need a more NFL-ready guy right now. Farley has the time to be able to develop, even if he even needs that time. And pairing him up with Jason Verrett would be very deadly, and that's assuming that Richard Sherman isn't going to be there next year. So, you know, I think Caleb Farley's great, and I think he fits in really nicely with the 49ers. Then at 13, we have the Chargers. And Chargers is still a pretty easy pick for me. It's going to be a tackle, but not Rashawn Slater. It's been the same pick for a while, but I think Christian Darrisaw is the second best tackle in the class. Another guy that it's normally your number one, if not for a guy like Penei Sewell. I think he'd be great at left tackle across from Bulaga. They really just have to focus on their O-line to make sure nothing happens to him like what happened to Deshaun Watson or Joe Burrow or, you know, any of them. Make sure he stays healthy, protect him, get some offensive line help, and this guy's a fantastic piece to start off. Then the Vikings at 14. This is another pick that's been the same for a while, but it's a pick that makes sense in Kwity Paye. He is the best edge rusher in this class. You can actually make an argument that Micah Parsons is the best edge rusher, but, you know, I don't know if he'd be used much there in Atlanta like that. But Kwity Paye, though, is the best actual edge player in this class by far. He's had a fantastic year for Michigan. I really love the fit of him and Danielle Hunter. You guys have a ton of great depth defensive linemen, but no like starter level guy like Kwity Paye is. Then at 15, the Cowboys traded down, and they get the guy exactly they wanted by trading down in J.C. Horn. Again, I've seen some reports that Jerry Jones really loves him over Surtain and Farley, so I think it's just a smarter move to trade down and gather some picks and still get the guy that you wanted. So yeah, looking at J.C. Horn, he's a very strong, physical, athletic corner from Georgia. Another fantastic athlete, pretty speedy as well. Just the all-around good package. I think he's pretty NFL ready, and I think he'll help out that Cowboys defense a lot. Then the Cardinals at 16. And the Cardinals would have loved for a guy like J.C. Horn to fall to them, but he goes the pick right before. And there are definitely guys they can take here. However, I just think they have to go with corner regardless, because it just needs so much help, that corner position. And looking at the guys available, I don't know why they have Eric Stokes at 39, but I know some people don't like Eric Stokes, but I think he's a first rounder personally. All these other guys are at best second rounders, so you're probably going to want to take Eric Stokes. However, even though I think they have him low in the rankings, I do think 16 is a little too high for Stokes, so we're going to be having another trade here. Now, let's think about this, okay? Looking at the players available, all right, someone that still hasn't been brought up yet is Mac Jones. And I know how people feel about Mac Jones, but listen, I personally think he has a chance to be great. I think he's going to surprise some people. But if you look at the teams that could take a gamble on Mac Jones, there's Washington, the Colts. I don't think the Bears will take a gamble. I think they're going to stick with Trubisky for right now. We have Washington, the Colts, and that's about it for the first round. So looking at these two teams that might want to take a gamble on him, who would move up for the Cardinals? Who would move up with the Cardinals? Well, personally, I think the team that's more likely to move up is the Colts. Here, let me get the Cardinals actually first. I think the team that's more likely to move up is the Colts. So the proposed trade is that Cardinals give the 16th, obviously, and a 5th next year. And in return, the Colts give them the 21st pick, the 120 this year, and a 6 next year. And then so this is the trade. We'll throw in a couple, picks to make it go through. And the Colts trade up here with the Cardinals. It's not too big of a move around, so they don't have to give up a ton in order to land their potential franchise guy in Mac Jones. Now, again, I know how people feel about Mac Jones. I know a lot of people think like he was surrounded by talent there and stuff, and all they threw was bubble screens, and that's true, But if you actually look at the way he played, with the weapons he had, he played a lot better than Tagovailoa did with the same and better weapons, really, because last year Tagovailoa also had Judy and Ruggs, so sure. But then you go into a team like the Colts, they have a lot of good developmental receivers right now, but their offensive line is arguably the best in football. Maybe that got taken away from them because Costanzo retired, so I definitely see the argument for a tackle here. But I just think if you can land a guy like Mac Jones, who I think could be the franchise guy for them, and I think Frank Reich isn't battling for his job right now, so he can take the time to develop him. And I think he's being thrown into an overall good situation. So then the Raiders at 17. And I feel like the Raiders just have to go whoever is the best defensive player available. Some might say that's JOK. Some might say that's Gregory Rousseau. But for me, it's between Aziz Ogilari and Joseph Acai. Now, last time I gave the Raiders Aziz Ogilari because I still believe this. I think Aziz Ogilari is probably like long term the best pass rusher in this class. Right now it's Kwity Paye, but I think Ogilari has the brightest future out of any of these guys. So I gave them Ogilari. But one thing I overlooked was the scheme fit, because the Raiders run a 4-3 defense, and Ogilari is definitely a 3-4 outside linebacker. So that doesn't really fit. So after rethinking that, the pick here is definitely Joseph Acai. This dude is another fantastic edge rusher from this class, but the reason he fits so well here is because all last year, so like not this last year, but the year before that, he played almost entirely standing up at like the 3-4 outside linebacker, and then this year he played almost entirely like hand in the dirt defensive end. So he can play like 3-4 defensive end, 4-3 defensive end, 3-4 outside linebacker. He's super, super versatile. And obviously he fits in nicely as a 4-3 defensive end for them. He'd be a fantastic pass rusher out the gate, and I think he's the best player available at this point. Then the Dolphins at 18, and I know a lot of people would love to take one of these running backs here. I also know some Dolphins fans that definitely do not want to take a running back here. So, there's different positions they can go, but I'm not going to go with the running back. I'm going to go with JOK. If it lets me switch back, I'm going to go with JOK. JOK is one of those guys that, again, normally would be your number one linebacker if not for Micah Parsons. The dude is almost as good as Parsons in a way, though. He is also athletically freaky, super speedy, very physical, has also played a lot of safety and even a good amount of slot corner at Notre Dame. So he is super, super versatile. And I think Brian Flores would love this type of guy in his defense. I think it's a great fit, and I think it makes that defense really, really good. Then Washington at 19, and Washington here would have liked for Mac Jones to fall to him, but he didn't. They didn't end up trading up, and I'm definitely not taking Kyle Trask here. Although I don't think he's like 81. I don't think he's a first rounder at this point. So here, if you're going to want to go somewhere with Washington, I feel like it's got to be offensive line or wide receiver. And looking at the wide receivers available, I don't think any of these guys should go as high as 19. I'm not a big fan of Rashad Bateman as like a mid-first rounder. So where I think they should go is definitely offensive line. Their tackles were not an issue, though. Their tackles were definitely not an issue because Cornelius on the left side played great, and I think Morgan Moses, his name, played also really good on the right side. But there's actually a decent chance that they might lose Brandon Sheriff. They have Chase Roulette, I think is his name, in the center. But being that Sheriff might be leaving and that left guard position already doesn't have anyone good, I think the pick here is definitely Elijah Vera Tucker. I don't know why he's listed as a tackle on Pro Football Network's draft rankings is what it's called. Don't know why he's a tackle, but he's a true guard and an elite one at that. He's definitely my favorite guard in the class. I think the best guard in the class. And again, he can go in at left side across from Brandon Sheriff if he stays, or if Brandon Sheriff goes, he can replace him or still play left side. Regardless, he'll be a fantastic guard for them. And it's actually a position to need if quarterback isn't there. And again, I think it's too high for one of these wide receivers. So I think this is the best pick here. Then at number 20, we have the Bears. And this has also been the same pick for a few weeks now. And this isn't unnecessarily what I would do draft. Because if I was any of these teams, I wouldn't be taking Rashawn Slater in the first round. And it's not to say he's absolutely horrible. I'm not saying he has no shot at working out. I just personally don't think he will. People love to talk about how he can play guard and tackle. We've never seen him play guard. They only project he can play guard because of his short arms, which is a horrible way to try and project something. He can play right tackle for sure. And he had a great game against Chase Young, sure, but it's okay, it was one game. I know he let up no sacks. I get that. I'm not saying he's horrible. I'm not saying he's not going to work out. I just personally don't like him, and I don't think he will work out. But the reason he goes here to the Bears is because the Bears realistically can cut both of their starting tackles in order to save some cap because they're in a bad cap situation right now. And Rashawn Slater, like I just said, can play left and right tackle. So if you're going to go with the tackle here, I think he probably is the best choice for you, and it's what they're going to go with here. Then we're back to the Cardinals, who traded down earlier with the Colts, obviously. And the Cardinals are now going to pick up their corner in Eric Stokes. Again, it's just I don't care who it is. They just need to address the corner position this draft because it's so bad. And I love Eric Stokes because not a lot of people are really on board with him as a first rounder. I totally am. I really hadn't paid much attention to this guy before, but then I looked at him and I actually really started to like him. He's a very strong corner from Georgia. I really like him, and I think the fit with the Cardinals is nice. Then the Titans at 22, and the Titans, it's going to be a really easy pick for me because it's going to be an edge player. But looking at the guys available, Gregory Rousseau is definitely a developmental project. And they don't need a developmental project that could be great. They need a guy that's going to make an impact right now. And Aziz Ogilari is a guy that would definitely make an impact right away. He's been fantastic and dominant for Georgia all year. I use the word dominant with this guy all the time, but that's just because that's truly what this guy is he is just pure dominance. I think he should be getting a lot more hype than he is. Some people still think he's at best a second rounder, which I don't get. This guy can realistically go in the top 20, He's fantastic, and I think this is a steal for the Titans, and I think he's a great player. He'll impact them immediately. Then the Texans at 23, since they traded with the Dolphins, or with the Jets, I mean. And here, if you're going to get a guy like Zach Wilson, you want to make sure he's protected. Like I've already explained, you want to make sure your guys are always protected. And also just make sure he doesn't go through what Deshawn Watson had to. And looking at the tackles available, I don't know why Tevin Jenkins is so high. A lot of people are really high on this guy right now. He's a third rounder to me. Liam Eichenberg maybe, but he's more of a high second rounder for me. Same with Mayfield. So it's between Leatherwood or Cosme for sure. But when it comes to the Texans, I just think I like Cosme a lot more, especially since he goes to Texas, so obviously there's that little connection. But Cosme is just a gigantic human being. He's very strong, great in the run as well, but also a fantastic pass blocker. I can definitely see him going above Rashawn Slater. I think he's a great tackle, and he's a good pick here for the Texans, who just need to protect Zach Wilson. Then the Steelers at 24, and yeah, they can definitely go offensive line here. I definitely see the argument for Alex Leatherwood or maybe even Wyatt Davis. I know some people are giving him first round hype. I don't really see that, but I think the pick here is going to be a running back. And looking at the guys available, I used to go with Etienne over Harris a lot, and especially Etienne to the Steelers. But I'm going to go with Najee Harris here. A big, very strong, powerful running back from Alabama, but he's also very fast and very athletic for the strength and power he brings. I've kind of come around to him being the best running back in the class. I think he's a first rounder, even though a lot of people don't think there is a first round running back. I think the Steelers just need to get a running back, though, because I think James Conner is so overrated. I was never that big on Anthony McFarland, and I don't think Benny Snell is going to be anything. So I love Najee Harris here, and I think he's going to make their run game actually a thing in Pittsburgh. So then the Jaguars at 25, and the Jaguars here, it's the same story with them. They're definitely going to want to get some offensive line help here for Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, I can maybe see maybe some like a corner or something, but they have a high pick in the second round to take a corner. So if you're going to go with the tackle here, the best guy available is definitely Alex Leatherwood. I like the fit on the Jaguars. Again, it comes down to just protecting Trevor Lawrence. And, I think Leatherwood's definitely the best guy available. And I think the reason he's not higher is because he is not very NFL ready. He's definitely more of not a developmental project, but he's just going to need some more experience before he hits that elite status, which I think he will. I think Leatherwood's going to be a future all-pro tackle. I think this guy has a ton of potential. He's just not there right now, but he can be. Then the Browns at 26, and pretty easy pick here. It's been the same pick for a while. Zaven Collins is yet another guy that is normally your linebacker number one, if not for Parsons and JOK. This dude has a fantastic tool set. He's also very fast and athletic, physical. He loves to get in on the run game. He's a fantastic run game stopper, very consistent in his coverage and plays. All around a great linebacker for the Browns to get here. Then the Ravens at 27, and the Ravens are another team that's definitely going to want to get like an edge player here. It's just looking at their situation. Calais Campbell is getting old. Derek Wolfe has been very inconsistent. And between Matt Judon and Yannick Ngakoue, they're losing at least one of them, if not both, because of the cap situation and all that, and they want big contracts. And yeah, Pernell McPhee and Tyus Boward, I think, are super underrated, but they're fantastic depth players. They're not guys you want starting for you. So if you are going to want a starter here, I like Rousseau, but again, he's a developmental project, and they need a person to play now. And just being that they're probably going to lose both their outside linebackers, a guy I really like here to the Ravens, and I've given him before, is Carlos Basham Jr. I think he should be getting some more hype as well. He's been fantastic for Wake Forest all year. I just think Wake Forest in general doesn't get the recognition it deserves. They do put out a good amount of decent players, and I think Carlos Basham is going to be a great edge rusher from Wake Forest. I think he fits with what the Ravens are looking for, and I like the pick. Then the Saints at 28, and this has been the same pick for a while too, but Nick Bolton is yet another guy that is normally your number one, if not for the other three guys. This is one of the best linebacking classes I've ever seen, and looking at their situation, they're in a very, very, very bad cap situation right now. So they're going to have to cut a lot of guys, and being that they're not going to be able to resign Quan Alexander, so then you only have Demario Davis at that linebacking spot. So why not get a fantastic guy like Nick Bolton to go back there with Davis? I think it's a great fit, and I like the pick. Then we got the Packers at 29, and the Packers, for me, I just feel like they have to go corner because, God, besides Jair Alexander, their corners were just atrocious in that game against the Buccaneers. So I feel like they're another team that just has to go corner. But I do think it is a little too early to go with either of these two guys. I like both these guys a lot, but I don't think they're first rounders though. So they're probably going to want to trade into the high second round. And looking at the picks available and stuff, what's a team that maybe would be willing to trade up here for a player? and that would be willing to give up their second round pick. Well, what are the players available? Here's a fantastic developmental project in Gregory Rousseau right here. So teams, I think, would definitely be willing to trade up for that, and I think that's what's going to end up happening right here. So, what's a team that's going to end up, trading up for a guy like Rousseau? Well, out of all these guys, I think the most likely is the Dolphins. So, we're going to be having the Packers trading with the Dolphins. Packers going to give up their 29th, and the Dolphins will give up their 36, as well as a fourth next year, and then so this is the trade. We'll throw in a few, these things to make it go through. This is mainly just so the Packers, again, can get more value for that pick. They pick up a few extra couple picks, and the Dolphins trade up here to get a fantastic developmental project in Gregory Rousseau, another guy that I think Brian Flores would love to have on that defense. The dude can perform as well as next year. I'm not saying he's strictly a developmental project, but more than likely he is. But he can develop on that defensive line and eventually be another great pass rusher to pair with Kyle Van Noy and I forget his name, but he was a Pro Bowler this year, I think, the defensive end, but he was fantastic. So if they can pair a guy like Rousseau with them, I think it's a good pick here. Then the Bills at 30, and the Bills here, I feel like, what was the main problem with them in that game? Their offensive line just did not hold up. And that's not to blame on the tackles. I mean, Darrell Williams had a bit of an off game, but besides that, was one of the best tackles in football this year. And Deion Dawkins wasn't bad at all. The issue this year has been the guards, easily, because Mitch Morse is a great center, but the guards have been the biggest issue by far. And I said earlier, Wyatt Davis isn't a first rounder to me, though. So I'm going to have the Bills also trading down into the early second to be able to pick a guy like Wyatt Davis up. And looking at some of these top picks, what's a team that's probably going to take Wyatt Davis? It's definitely the Bengals. They're definitely the most likely to take Wyatt Davis. So you're going to look at, probably the Eagles or the Falcons to trade up here. And is there a player that the Eagles or Falcons would trade up for? And my answer to that is yes, because and here's my thought process: is I either think that the Falcons would want to trade up and get Travis Etienne, or the Eagles trade up in order to get not Rashad Bateman, because they took a wide receiver they took Jamar Chase. So they would want to be trading up ahead of a few of these other teams looking for corners in order to land one of these corners. But between the two, I think the most likely, and just being that, Travis Etienne will probably fall to the Falcons, I think the Eagles are the more likely to trade up here. So we're going to have the Bills trading with the Eagles. And the Bills will give up the 30 and get the 37 and the 199th in return. And then we'll do these to make it go through. And yeah, so now the Eagles have traded up, and they're going to take a really, really good corner here in Asante Samuel, who I can definitely see Tyson Campbell and Asante Samuel jumping up into the first round, especially with good combines. These guys are fantastic. I think they're both going to be great in the NFL. I like Asante Samuel a bit more on the Eagles than I do Tyson Campbell, but Campbell can definitely also be just as good, if not better. I think both these guys have a huge potential, and I like both of them. So, yeah, I think it's a good pick here. The Bills can trade down and get their guy that they're wanting in the second round. And the Eagles get a great corner here that might have not fallen to them past that spot. So, yeah. Then the Buccaneers with the 31st pick. And the Buccaneers, there's really three different picks for me here. I feel like it's either going to be Christian Barmore, Jason Owe, Jalen Phillips, or so 4 picks actually, or Travis Etienne. So I think Travis Etienne would be a better running back than Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette out the gate. He's also obviously younger, and I like Travis Etienne. However, Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones has secretly been really good all year. it's a really nice 1-2 punch, and especially like in the playoffs, Fournette really heated up where Jones was good all season. So I think the position definitely is going to be defensive line here, just being that Ndamukong Suh is getting older, and besides from Vita Vea, they wouldn't have anyone else. But looking at the guys available, Christian Barmore is nice, but I still think he's like a high second rounder for me. I'm still not on board for him as a first rounder, although he definitely could be. So it's between Jason Owe, or I think it's like, I think I'm saying it wrong, and it's not Owe, I think, but I am going to end up going with Jalen Phillips, though. Another guy that's been super, super underrated this year. He's like, if you look at his teammate, I forget his name, but his other teammate has kind of overshadowed him, a bit more. I'm not thinking of Rousseau, but his other pass rush buddy, though, has really overshadowed him this year, so he's not gotten the recognition that he deserves, even though he deserves it, and the other guy really isn't even getting that much credit. I can't remember the name from the life of me right now, but Jalen Phillips, though, is a fantastic, dominant guy. I think he'd fit perfectly right across from Ndamukong Suh, or can even replace him if needed be, so I think it's a good pick here. And then with the final pick of the first round, we have the Chiefs, and for me, I feel like the only position the Chiefs can really go here is probably like offensive line or linebacker. I don't think Dylan Moses is a first rounder right now, and I don't think any of these other guys is first rounders either. Although I do like these guys. Like I said, this is probably the best linebacking class I've ever seen. Baron Browning is finally getting some recognition that he deserves. But yeah, the pick is going to definitely be a tackle, because we saw as soon as Eric Fisher went down that the offensive line started to play a lot worse, and Mitchell Schwartz is on a contract year next year, I believe. So even if he is just depth or potentially to replace somebody, I think that Liam Eichenberg fits really nicely with the Chiefs. Again, even if he's just depth, he's great depth to add to them. He's a guy that he drops here almost to the second round because he's pretty inconsistent, but when he is like in his good strides, he's really, really good. So if he can like work out his consistency issues, he'll be a very, very good tackle in the NFL. Maybe could even replace Eric Fisher or Schwartz if he doesn't resign. But again, even if he's depth, he's great depth. So yeah, that's my first official trade mock draft for the 2021 NFL draft. Let me know what you guys thought down below. Don't forget to share the video, like, comment, share your opinions. I always talk with you guys. I love, reading what you have to say. Thank you for the support. My last video, I think, is at like almost 7,500 views right now, which is just crazy. I thank you so much for that. I love that. We're on the road to 200 subscribers, so help me get there. New videos coming out, at least 2 new ones a week. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see all you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.